If somehow Christianity was dominant and you could privilege Christianity through policies that would, basically through force of law, privilege Christian belief, incentivize conversion to Christianity, even punish blasphemy, let's say, but you can strike that if you don't want it. There's still law and order. You're not forcing anyone to convert, but you're just establishing a system where Christianity is privileged. And you said right now that yes, you would want that kind of system because Christianity is the best. So you want a system. You want a system like you're the king, but you would have like a Muslim vice president or vice king, and your administration would have Hindus and Buddhists and Muslims because it's freedom and equality for all, right? According to your system, right? Yes or no?
Let me just give you my view because it might help you understand things.
Just answer the question. Just answer the question. You have these very long answers, David.
There's a huge.
You can just say yes or no. Why can't you say yes or no?
There's a huge misunderstanding here. You assume that political power is good in the sense of if your group can get into political power, then you can implement your policies. I view political power as something that will corrupt people once they have it, almost inevitably. So if you take Christians who for 3 centuries never crossed their minds to get violent, suddenly you give them a bunch of political power and they've been persecuted for centuries now. It's a pretty natural inclination to say, all right, now we have to stop and never be in that situation again. So let's go out and strive for to maintain this sort of political power.
So you think that Christians should never have power? Because power corrupts, so Christians should never strive to have power. You want to live in a world where Christians are always being dominated by other groups?
Not what I'm saying. Not what I'm saying at all. I'm saying
there are two choices here, David. Christians are dominant. They have a dominant system that privileges Christianity, or Christians are being dominated. Those are the only two options, logically. Which one do you prefer?
I would not trust a system where Christians dominate and enforce Christianity on other people.
So you want atheists? You want atheists to be dominant?
I don't trust any of them. That's the point. That's the point. That's the point. I don't trust anyone who's going to be implementing these kinds of policies. That's why if you're going to do anything, the best case scenario would be something that is best for the most people, where the government actually says, okay, there are certain things that we're not going to interfere with. If you guys get violent, then yes, we have to interfere with it. If one group is going to subjugate another group, Daniel, you're free to walk down the street and preach your religion. I'm free to walk down the street and preach my religion.
You're not free to preach your religion. This is something else I wanted to respond to. You're not free to preach the Bible. Go to any European secular country. There are hate speech laws. In Finland, they just put someone in prison for sharing verses.
Then they would be screwed up. Then that would be messed up. If you're punishing people
it's
for
hate speech.
For hate speech.
Yeah, it's hate speech. No. How is that? The secular justification is that these verses are hateful. You can't teach these verses.
Because I don't, but that's the point. I don't want governments to have that kind of authority over people, because inevitably they become corrupt and start crushing people. It's very simple. Don't stop me from saying what I want to say unless I'm calling for, violence or something like that. You're saying they're doing it too. Great. Then I don't like it when they do it. I don't like it when they do it. I don't like it when Muslims do it. If Christians do it, I wouldn't like it when Christians do it.
You want Christians to be dominated, so that means you
No, it's not. No, it's not. I would like a government that doesn't dominate us, right?
So you want a secular liberal government.
You're asking me what kind of government I would prefer. It would not be any sort of government that is oppressing me or telling me I can't preach the gospel or anything like that. I'd be fine with a king if he's a good king. I'd be fine with democracy if it's pretty fairly well-informed people who aren't sending us into insanity and so on. So I'm fine with I'm fine with a variety of. Daniel,
what is it? Tell me what this government is.
I have no concept of here's the government that I want to impose on the world. And you're saying, David, what kind of government would you impose? I don't want to impose.
How can you criticize?
No.
You can't criticize Islam and Islamic governance and Islamic law if you don't have an alternative. What is
course-
the
of
what
course
is
I
the
can.
alternative?
I can
What
say
is the
almo-
alternative?
I can
I'm saying
say
that
almost any
Islam is the
alternative.
best alternative. Islam is the best alternative, and you're saying no, it's not. Okay, so give me your alternative.
I would say
Clearly, it's not a
almo-
Christian-dominated
I
alternative.
would-
Islam, yes, it has discrimination, but it's actually discrimination that is more favorable to Christians, and there is literally not a single alternative. There is literally not a single alternative to Islamic law that David can propose that is better for Christians, and that's why you're floundering, David. You can't give me an example. And you even say that, well, my job is not to give you an alternative example. Okay, so you can see that there's literally nothing better that you know of to Islamic law.
If someone leaves Islam and converts to Christianity, and under Islam you would execute him, you don't see why I would think that's actually worse than, I mean.
Do you know the history of secularism? Do you know how many Christians were murdered in the French Revolution by the atheists? Yeah, you don't know what I'm talking about.
Yeah, great. I don't
That's
like
a secular
that.
system. That's a
I don't
secular
like that
system.
either. Listen.
So what's the alternative?
Daniel.
My argument is that this kind of discrimination that you're whining about
Okay,
and
then we
other
agree.
apologists, that's something fundamental. No, it's discrimination. That's something that's inherent to any government system. And the modern secular system discriminates and persecutes Christians much more violently than anything that Islam has done. And the history of secularism has been far more violent in persecuting Christians than anything that has been done in Islam.
We're debating
do you think
Islam
Holocaust
calls for...
deniers? Do you think Holocaust deniers should be banned? I want to see what's your level of free speech absolutism. Do you think Holocaust denial?
No. I think you should expose them. I think you should expose them as stupid.
Okay, so.
Yeah,
you,
I'm not
so,
an abs. I'm not an. I'm not.
How about a government? How about a government? Okay, policy that says that if you're a Holocaust denier, or let's say you're a member of the KKK, you're a neo-Nazi, you're a racist, you cannot be in certain levels of government. You cannot take public office. You're banned from those positions. Do you agree with that?
I'd have to think about it again. Daniel, I'm not.
So neo-Nazis are okay to take official positions in the government, according to you?
No. I mean, what sort of
I just want to see which beliefs do you want to discriminate against? Because you say that you're open to all beliefs. There shouldn't be any policies against any belief. What about neo-Nazi beliefs? What about KKK? So in your ideal government,
Daniel, this is such a simple topic. This happens.
Don't interrupt me, David.
In so many debates.
Do not interrupt me, David. Let me finish my thought.
First, I ain't your dimmy here.
Maybe soon.
Everything you're saying
maybe
is a
soon, David. Don't speak too soon. It's not end of the debate over. We don't know if you're going to be my dhimmi or not. Answer the question. Are you fine or are you not fine with having neo-Nazis, KKK members, people with these kinds of beliefs, outright racism? They're not violent. They just espouse this kind of white supremacy. Are you fine with them being in positions of government, public policy, and being able to preach their views about white supremacy?
I think you have some people who aren't terribly far off some of that, and especially in Europe, you're getting people who aren't very far off from that.
You approve of that? Do you approve of that or not?
No, you're oversimplifying it. If you wanted to rule, if you wanted to rule people out, you'd have to describe the policies that would be used and show how they would be implemented in order to ensure that certain people with certain views are excluded. And if those policies...
Do you think they should be excluded? That's the question.
If those policies...
You're just rambling. You're
avoiding
the question.
I'd have to see the
You have to see the policy? The policy is neo-Nazis and white supremacists cannot take public positions in government.
So
they cannot be public school teachers.
The government only says that. The government only says that, right?
Yeah.
Just no neo-Nazis, right? No neo-Nazis.
Yeah, neo-Nazis, no KKK.
I think it would have to be more general. It would have to be if you hold views in the government calling for the racial superiority of one group or something like that, then again I don't know how you do this. You'd have to. It's not something you just decide and say this group is magically banned. And again, totally, completely, utterly irrelevant. Does.
Yes, it is
I don't
relevant.
know why
It
you're
is
running
relevant.
from the topic.
So, okay,
does
so
Islam
neo-Nazis
require
no, 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 no,
the
no,
violent
no, 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 no,
persecution
no.
of Christians?
Don't try to
But what,
don't
David,
try to weasel
let
out
me
of
give
it.
you
Don't try to
5,000
weasel out of it.
hypothetical scenarios
No.
about a government and how to rule out neo-Nut. Does Islam require the violent persecution of Christians? Following this,
You're the one
any
who talked
topic-
about blasphemy. This is blasphemy. According to secularism, it is blasphemy.
Because the Quran talks
it is
about
blasphemy.
blasphemy.
Yeah, it is blasphemy.
and-
That's the topic of the
Daniel,
debate.
Daniel, you can't-
Okay, look, you're
it's
interrupting
not-
me. Man. Don't interrupt. Let me point out the inconsistency so you can understand
not,
it, and the
'cause I said this
audience
in the beginning.
and the audience can understand it. You started out by saying that you wouldn't want to ban any kind of people based on their beliefs. So presumably you're okay
Didn't
with
say that.
Muslims, with Hindus, with Satan worshippers, even in government. You want everyone to have a fair, equal shot at being in government. Then I asked you about
Didn't
KKK
say
and
that.
neo-Nazis and white supremacists, and you said no. We should have limits on those kinds of beliefs. So that means you have more of an allegiance to secular liberal ideas about blasphemy and what is out of bounds than you do of Christianity itself, than Christian norms and Christian values itself. That's the contradiction in your perspective.
Right now, Christians have enough. I mean, there are 2 billion Christians. We make up a third of the world's population, and we have some of the most powerful countries that the world has ever seen. I don't see a lot of Christians saying, "Hey, we need to go around."
Christians are not in
and
power
subjugate the world.
today. Liberal
you talking about?
atheists are in power, not Christians. Christians are being jailed for citing the Bible. Christians are being called domestic terrorists when they go to their local schools and they demand that their children aren't taught Satanism. That's the reality of Christians. I'm surprised that you're trying to defend modern liberal secularism. It's shocking to
No,
me.
Muslims aren't in power. You guys are still talking about going around and subjugating the world.
I acknowledge that. I acknowledge that.
I know.
We're
And
honest.
that's what-
That's
that's
the
what I-
honesty. That's the honesty
what
of
I'm saying.
Islam.
You say you're honest about it because it's actually part of your religion. So it's not really a choice.
It's part
in
of your religion too.
It's not built into my religion, dude.
Yes.
are you
It
talking
is.
about?
Do you have a moral objection? Sometimes God just wants believers to engage in expansionist war. You conceded that in our previous debate.
There you misrepresent what I said too.
Sometimes, okay, this is the statement.
Not what I
Sometimes God just wants believers to engage in expansionist war. Sometimes in human history, maybe not now, but at certain points in history, God has wanted believers to engage in expansionist war. That's true, right? Jesus wanted that at some point. Yeah, as testified to in the Bible, yes or no? Concede it. Say it.
I thought I made this entirely clear.
Say it, David. Save it.
No, because
Say it.
because it's misrepresented. You're misrepresenting everything I'm saying.
The
right
Bible.
now. What you
Sometimes
just said,
God
what you said. No,
wants
listen,
believers to engage in expansionist war. That's what the Bible says.
You mean sometimes now? No. So listen.
Not now. I didn't say now.
Okay.
Sometimes
Let
in
me
the
explain.
past.
Let me explain. Because I thought this.
Here we go again.
Because I thought this was totally clear, even though it's completely irrelevant to this debate. In Christianity, we've been commanded to love everyone, to honor all people. That's what we've been commanded.
You
would
honor
point
them
out-
by
you would-
subjugating them.
You would point out, no, that's what we're told. We're not honoring them by subjugating. Now you're doing what you did with the definition of persecution. Well, it's still just
You
to
love
persecute
them
so
by
it's
killing
not.
them. You love them by killing them.
No, look,
That's what Augustine argued.
We are not in a position to say that sort of thing. If we're told
Augustine said it.
If we are told to live in,
You can go through all the contextual points that you want. No problem. I have no problem with this contextualization. I call it the magic of reinterpretation, actually. You engaged a lot of that, David. So no problem. Do that all day. But the point is that there is no moral objection that you have to expansionist war, to dhimmitude, to jizya, to punishing blasphemers, to killing heretics. You have no problem. You have no moral objection in and of itself to those things. No, you can't, because Jesus commanded those things in the Bible. Christianity, whenever Christians have had power in their history, regardless of what David
Nothing
and
to do with the debate.
his magic of reinterpretation, they have violently persecuted and subjugated. They have killed the most people in the past 200 years as a religious group, by far as Christians. So this does have something to do with the debate, because given that reality, yeah, Muslims are going to have certain policies that will try to limit the control of Christians in the Islamic lands, because they don't want to be massacred like these Christians have been doing for the entirety of their history.
Because we claim that Jesus is the Son of God, we have to be silenced by enforcing dimitude on us. And the pattern is we can either convert, we can relinquish our rights to at least publicly proclaim the gospel, or we can be killed. So that's obviously the violent persecution of Christians. If it's, hey, we have to violently subjugate these people to keep them from saying Jesus is Lord.
Islam does not subjugate Christians for teaching their religion. Ahlul Kitab, Ahlul Dhimma, the protected people within the Islamic State, are allowed to teach their religion in their churches and their synagogues. They are allowed to raise their children as Christians, as God-fearing Christians. Islam does not prevent Christians within an Islamic nation to teach the Trinity or to teach any of those kinds of beliefs. So this is a misrepresentation from David. If you go to Muslim societies today, you will find Christians that are teaching the Bible, they're teaching the Trinity, and in many of these Muslim societies, the Christians are actually doing very well socially. In Egypt, the richest Egyptian family is actually a construction company family who are Christian, Coptic Christians. Throughout this debate, David has not answered a single question that I had. Literally, very basic questions that even the Christian audience who are watching this are probably ripping their hair out, asking, why isn't David able to, for example, say if he does or does not want neo-Nazis serving in government positions, or should those kinds of views be deterred or prevented? Like, such a simple question. He did not answer that. He didn't answer the question, name me one system that doesn't discriminate against religious minorities. Name me one.
Daniel has no moral objection to alcohol because God allows it sometimes. So do you have a moral objection to abortion when God has allowed it before?
So if Daniel actually wanted to know if I were making rules, and this will get me in trouble with a lot of people. If I were actually making rules and I were king of the world, I would outlaw abortion. I would not trust a system where Christians dominate and enforce Christianity. Christians dominate and enforce Christianity. Christians dominate and enforce Christianity. Christians dominate and enforce Christianity.